Cool. Hello everyone, thank you and welcome to our session, Writing Good Salesforce Requirements. So we're pleased to know we don't rely on any form of internet connectivity because we have no demo, not so the simplest ones that has left us. So we're going to talk more theoretical today, not about Salesforce functionality as most of the sessions will be. But as I say, we're going to be talking about a model for defining, gathering, refining, and hopefully ultimately being more successful with defining and building requirements within Salesforce. So quick introductions. My name is Ben Duffy. So I've been working with Salesforce for about 5 years, in consulting for the last 3 years. Currently working with Mavens, so also known for Maven's Mates, but we are a Force.com implementation partner. That's very good. Working specifically within the healthcare and life sciences sector. So if you're interested in knowing more about Mavens or the work that we do, either Mavens.com or speak to myself, Pablo, or essentially anybody else with a Maven's Mate sticker on their laptop. So we've got a handful of Salesforce certifications, but in addition to Salesforce, I'm also certified Scrum Master. So methodology overall is something that I'm very passionate about, and so really looking forward to sharing some best practices with you today on that subject.
Okay, thank you, Ben. My name is Pablo Rolda. I'm Spanish. I'm technical architect at Mavens. I will be boring about my life, but I think that you can ask me later. Ben presented this presentation quite well, so I'm just going to add that what makes us successful in our projects is a good methodology and best practices. So we are going to share some of this knowledge.
Okay, so before we get into the content, what are we doing here, or traditionally agenda for our session? We're going to start by taking a look at essentially the need or the challenge. Why do we need a model for defining good requirements? What's the challenge that we're aiming to overcome? From there, we're going to take a look at what we have called, for the purposes of today, the requirement/feature lifecycle. The various stages that a feature or a requirement typically might move through, or you might want to encourage it through, right from kind of initial inception, initial understanding of that requirement, right through to refining that understanding and ultimately delivering to your customer, stakeholders, whether you're internal or consulting. In that mix, also kind of emphasise the importance of priority. We'll go into that in a bit more detail. And from there, we're going to take a look at user stories. Who is familiar with, has heard of user stories today? Anyone? Yeah? Okay, cool. You might be able to help me out. So we're going to take a look at what they are, talk about why we might use them, how do they work, do they even work, and what's the benefits of using this model of defining requirements. Finally, very briefly, we'll take a look at some kind of recommended tools that you might use to facilitate A, user stories, B, this requirement/feature lifecycle that we're speaking about.
All right. So look familiar? Yeah, I think so. So we just wanted to show you this slide to demonstrate a real-world challenge, and hopefully this also demonstrates the necessity to have a good requirements. So on your right-hand side, we can see the goal for the customer, what they expect, and the other pictures are interpretation by others. So why this mess is happening here? This is because the requirements are open to misunderstanding between individuals. So someone in the same project can imagine some unnecessary functionality in the project, and that is what will happen. So having a model and a process to agree on the requirements will give us enough information to start building our application, but also will give us the tools to agree on a common understanding of the requirement, which is the most important here. So what's the need? These points are just summarizing the big issues that we saw in the previous slide. So without good requirements, if your stakeholder has a different expectation of what will be delivered, what we won't have is a common agreement of when we are done. So the deadline will be later or whatever. We need to ensure that every technical requirement is based in well-founded business logic. Otherwise, we will imagine unnecessary functionality, as we said before, and risking the application over engineering or confusing the users, many things. So also we need to keep our stakeholders involved in the whole process, because we can relieve ourselves from some accountability and share it with them. So we all have the same goal. We all want the last picture, so let's work together towards it. And all this amounts to a shared definition of success. So we all want to deliver success to our business. So let's follow these points to do it.
So we're going to jump into a bit of weird role play, so stick with us. Sort of situation that many people will be familiar with if you're an internal system admin, maybe if you're a consultant, consulting your customers, but sales manager versus Salesforce admin hero. So typical sales manager, so anyone in the room is a sales manager, bursts into the room, has all these weird and wonderful ideas and things that they want to implement in Salesforce. Typically we want to avoid promising them the world, but we want to extract good information from them so that we can go about delivering on their requirements. Okay?
Yeah, so no offense, please. Alright, so hey my lovely Salesforce guy, I have a pretty word for you, a real one, so you know what I mean. So to accomplish this project, we need to start capturing renewal revenue in Salesforce, and also we need to start selling our own tire support packages with new hardware deals. We fire our support partner, so yeah, pretty straightforward, isn't it? So we did this in my old company, so just let me know when you're done. Questions? No? Great. So we are counting on you. And by the way, if you fail, everything failed, but no pressure.
So typically that's how a sales manager might operate, and it would leave us Salesforce professionals leaving us a little bit confused. There's not really very much good information there that we can get about acting on. Okay. So let's break down and analyse what just happened slightly. Classic interaction between a sales manager and a system admin, but what do we actually take away from that interaction? What do we know? So firstly, we know that the sales manager has some new business requirements. We may not have a particularly clear vision of what they are right now, but we've got an inkling of them. We know that he wants to manage renewals in Salesforce, massive work on that one. And also he wants to start selling a new type of support product on particular deals, mention something about like firing their support partner, not really sure what that's all about at this stage. So it's great, he's come to us with ideas. We encourage that. It's all about generating that buzz, generating these ideas of new features that might further enable the organisation. But it's our job to kind of put a cap on his enthusiasm, manage his expectations, and as I said, extract the information that we need to help him achieve his absolute goal. So he mentioned also that he'd done this in his previous company. That's everybody's least favourite thing for somebody to say, because it essentially means that they underappreciate kind of complexity or the capability that we have to customise Salesforce. It's not just a series of features that we flick on and off, as much as we kind of wish it was at times. But we've got flexibility to customise for our own specific business needs. It's not just a case of enabling the features that he's used previously. So does anyone think we have enough information to start working on these requirements as they're defined right now, as we see here? Some shakes, no nods, which is good to see. Great.
Someone say yes. Come here.
Okay. So no, we absolutely don't. We need to go about refining our understanding of these requirements before we can start building features to meet those business requirements. So we'll stop and just take a look at some key learning points to take away. The first of which is make assumptions. Demonstrate that you're not just a technology-focused person, you also have an understanding of the business logic the business that you work within, and the logic, the business logic. If you're a consultant, you've likely seen the same or similar scenarios over and over. So apply what you already know, demonstrate that you have a business head on your shoulders. And really what we're talking about there is a basis to ask more kind of closed and directed questions to our stakeholders, okay? So we can't just make assumptions, go away and build. We need to validate those assumptions by asking questions to relevant people. Secondly, this is kind of just like a mental tweak, if you will, in terms of how you go about defining requirements. So you can gather and gather and gather and gather and gather requirements, forever. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have an understanding of what they mean. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've got enough information to start building on them. So this concept of refining your understanding is something that you do on an ongoing basis to really develop an understanding and make sure that you can go about building functionality. Thirdly, focus on the who, the what, and the why of any business requirement. So these are the three fundamental elements to really begin to understand any business requirement. Okay, who needs to do what, for what business reason, and why. Okay.
Yeah, we need to prioritize our tasks as well. We need to keep communication with the stakeholders, and first of all, we need to know the deadline. That is the most important. Then we need to be realistic about how much time we are going to spend in every task, and have a discussion with the stakeholders to agree what is going to happen if we don't meet one of the tasks, so we can prioritize between the tasks for the deadline. And analyze data. That is quite important for me. I'm a technical architect. Analyze the data is the most important in my role. Why? Because not all the companies are working the same in the same way for the same industry. So, for example, if one of your clients work with a lot of data, and in every daily process they use like thousands or millions of records, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is to use asynchronous methods, not synchronous. So that is something that you know analyzing the data for your clients.
So to dive a bit more into the requirement lifecycle, where you might just consider these kind of statuses that you might assign to a feature that you're going to build, a ticket, whatever it is you call it internally. So just to kind of talk through each of these, what they mean, their relevance to one another. So the icebox is essentially the universe of known requirements. So we mentioned before that you can gather and gather and gather, and we encourage new ideas all the time. So we would foresee that everything really begins its life cycle in the icebox. And what that represents is the universe of known requirements, but those are not yet well enough understood for us to commit to working on them, okay? So then we would go about refining our understanding of those requirements based on our known business priorities to ultimately move a feature or requirement that we're going to deliver through to the backlog. So backlog, again, this is all kind of Scrum terminology, but if you do work in cycles or if you're familiar with any kind of methodology, that works in increments, then you would typically ensure that you have a full backlog that you intend to deliver ahead of any sprint. Okay? So backlog is the area for features that we have a solid, well-rounded understanding of, that we are committing to deliver. So nobody can move anything into the backlog without our blessing or without us actually physically doing it. And equally, nobody can move anything out. That is our area that we focus on. Okay? So in progress is completely self-explanatory, but it's really just about separating from the backlog. And equally, one of the goals of having a good kind of iterative methodology is to kind of limit work in progress, so that we are essentially working more effectively. We don't have, millions or not millions, but a few different requirements in progress at any given time, so we can give a clearer expectation to our stakeholders. So finally, but not really finally, because we've got one after, we've got done and done. So seems weird, sort of strange terminology, but just kind of explain the difference between the two. So done would typically mean, I have built this, I have built a workflow rule, it works on my machine, I am now moving on to something else, okay? For all intents and purposes, right now, I'm done, okay? However, there is more work required in order for us to consider that feature truly delivered. Ancillary tasks such as testing, deployment, testing, deployment, documentation, classic examples, which we would typically do, in a bigger group on multiple features. Maybe at the end of a sprint, you wouldn't necessarily slow down work in progress just to work on deploying an individual feature documentation. So whilst done means I'm done for the time being, done means truly delivered. We can move on to something else. So moving on to user stories, I appreciate many of you in the room said that you're familiar with user stories, so correct me if I'm wrong on understanding that. So essentially a user story has two components, the first being the story itself, so the who, the what and the why that we mentioned. And secondly, and arguably most importantly, we have acceptance criteria, or some people call those conditions of satisfaction. Okay? So whilst the story captures the who, the what and the why that I mentioned in the format that we see here, and so to draw on our example from our lovely interaction with Mr. Pablo, Senior Sales Manager earlier, we might use something like, as a salesperson, I want my renewal opportunities to be automatically created so that my renewal pipeline is reflected for the following year. Okay, so who, what and why. And where the acceptance criteria is really important is that whilst the story gives us, kind of a top level understanding of a feature, we kind of understand the direction we're moving in. The acceptance criteria are more granular criteria, essentially, that we have to satisfy in order to consider this feature successful. So we might say something like, when I close win an opportunity, a renewal opportunity is close won. So we don't capture that detail in the story, but I need to validate that that statement is true in order to know that I've satisfied it. Okay. So why the second half of user stories? And this is really drawing on some of the challenges that Pablo mentioned earlier. First, shared understanding, which also kind of inherently means shared accountability. So if we're working on gathering and refining these features, stories, ongoingly with our stakeholders, we're both taking away a more equal understanding, let's say, rather than just a snippet of an understanding at a point in time, which may change, which also shares accountability with that person. Okay, so if we define a well-defined story, and that is equally the sales manager's responsibilities out of the business logic, we're sharing that accountability with them. Okay, so if there's changes, we're essentially covering ourselves. Secondly, that was the first of 3 points.
Sorry.
Secondly, so testing, clarity and guidance. So really just drawing on the acceptance criteria here, okay? Testing is obviously a very important part of the development lifecycle. So if we can validate simply that all of our conditions of satisfaction or acceptance criteria are true, then testing is easy and we've all got a shared understanding of what it means to be done. Okay?
No? Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so back to kind of screen 2 of our weird little scenario. Our Salesforce admin hero goes back to our sales manager, enlightened with all the information that he's learned in the last 10 minutes of this session. He's been back. So let's see how he gets on. And here's me. Okay, so what have we learned and what are we going to recap on with the sales manager? We know that we need to make some assumptions and we need to validate those assumptions by asking questions. We need to focus on extracting the who, the what and the why of our features, and we need to figure out what priorities are. Got this, okay. Next slide. Or press something. Press something. Okay, enter Salesforce admin. Hey, Mr. Sales Manager, I was hoping I could take just a few minutes of your time to kind of refine my understanding of those requirements that we spoke about the other day. Yeah, I've been kind of playing with a new model for defining these features, and I really just want to have your input to make sure that we share the same understanding, so that I can hopefully deliver something successful. So starting with you mentioned a requirement around renewals. So my assumption there is that you meant renewal opportunities, because I know that we use opportunities to capture our revenue. So just want to run this through with you. So what I've got here is that as a salesperson, I want a renewal opportunity to be created when I update an opportunity to close one, so my pipeline is updated with renewing deals. And then you'll see what we've got underneath is kind of more granular criteria that, again, based on my assumptions, but the more specific things that we need to deliver. So right now we've got a couple, but I need to ask you some questions. First is that when a renewal opportunity is created, cancel that. When a renewal opportunity is created, when an opportunity is closed won. Yeah. And also, I know based on my own understanding of the business logic that, we sell everything on an annual renewal subscription. So I'm assuming that the close date of that opportunity should be 365 days in the future.
Yeah, you're right.
Or the next year.
Yeah.
So just thinking about other things that we capture on an opportunity, which, pertain to the deals. First one being products. Mm-hmm. So what products would you expect to see on this opportunity?
Well, everything we saw first time will also renew. So I would consider every single product.
Got it. So we're capturing all of the same products in the renewal term as we sold the first year. That makes perfect sense. I'll make a note of that imaginarily over here. And secondly, final thing that is key to an opportunity. I know to you it kind of represents the pipeline stage. So where would you consider a renewal opportunity to be in the pipeline?
Well, we generally do some negotiating at renewal, so I would consider this as negotiation stage.
Okay. Thank you very much. Please press the button. So there we go. I've captured all that now, so I'll share this with you as well. So I'm glad that we both have a shared understanding of that feature. So the second requirement that I wanted to move on to, I need a bit more of your help on this one. I know it's around the support packages. You mentioned that we're starting to sell our own support, I think. So what I've got right now is, as a sales rep, I want to be able to select some tiered support packages from my opportunities, so I'm going to include those in my deals. Do you think you could start by just elaborating a bit more on what you mean by tiered packages?
Yeah. Well, we are going to have platinum, gold, bronze tiered support packages. So, and all of them with their own different prices. So.
Okay, right, that makes sense. We're talking platinum, gold, bronze, all their own prices. So to me, those really sound like different products.
Yeah.
So as I say, I'm less familiar with this side of the business. So any other kind of business logic around that I should be aware of?
Yes, I'm glad you asked because I was thinking about that. We need to ensure that every deal over 100,000 euros has gold or higher support. And this is critical because, as I mentioned before, we fire our support partner.
Okay, got it. So what we're saying is that all of our most valuable customers need to have a certain level of support, which makes absolute sense. And it sounds like this one is the priority because there's a real kind of business deadline. Our 10-year ends with our current support partner. So I should prioritise this one, correct?
Exactly.
Perfect, thank you.
Sick.
Next.
I press it.
Trust me. So there we go. So again, let's consider this our finalised feature, and I'll go away and prioritise requirement number 2 here. Okay, end of weird role play. You'll be pleased to know. Thanks for bearing with us.
Yeah.
But let's start to take a look at, emphasise some of the points we mentioned earlier, as well as add some new ones. First one being, I don't really like this terminology to be honest, but pushback on scope creep, but to me this is more just about ongoingly managing expectations. Again, tying into the fact that we don't want to discourage new ideas, but if you have finite time, finite people to work on stuff, then you have to be realistic about what is achievable within X amount of time. So don't necessarily say push back, I'm not doing it, but say great, let's work together to understand the priorities, and then we can talk about what we can deliver when. Okay. And that really ties in nicely to the second point, which is keep it simple, and another concept that's used across various methodologies, which some of you might be familiar with, is this concept of minimum viable products, okay? Or MVP. So that essentially means understanding what is the minimum that we need to deliver in order to consider this successful. And that doesn't necessarily become our goal, but rather it just becomes our benchmark for success, okay? So if we are effective in managing expectations as well, you know, we would maybe get that as low as we can, but know that we've got a bit of extra time, and in that time we're actually delighting our customers, delighting our stakeholders. Okay. Sharing accountability, again, this is really just emphasising, but you know, we worked on defining those features with our sales manager. He takes away as much accountability as we do, because he's brought the business logic. It's our job to go away and match, you know, a technical solution. And finally, focusing on business needs. Okay, all of this is business logic, as I said, as defined by our business stakeholder. We definitely don't want to risk over-engineering, even though it's quite fun to go away and build cool stuff in Salesforce. Make sure that it's based on well-founded business logic. Please double tap. Okay, so finally, just very briefly, talk about tools. I mentioned, obviously, we're talking Kanban style UI tools. So Kanban's really nice because it allows us to organise things into both columns and by order of priority. And if you have a nice tool that you can share visibility, you know, with your business stakeholders, then it kind of enforces the whole concept of, you know, a shared understanding. You know, you're not taking away different notes. You are looking at the same record. Okay. So we're not going to go into any great detail, but a few examples. I'm not on commission, I promise, but Task Feed and Task Ray are existing tools built on Salesforce. So particularly useful, you know, if you do want to share visibility with your sales managers, etc., because they obviously already have access to Salesforce. Probably don't want to introduce anything new to them. But there are a whole host of other existing tools out there. This is just a handful of my favourites, if you will. So it's really about finding one that works for you, but I definitely recommend that, you know, you're taking these and, you know, take a look, but equally just click on the Googles. Yeah, and also I would like to add that from my technical view, Trello and Jira are quite good. Trello is more for basic projects, and if you didn't see any kind of Kanban tool for technical, I think that Trello is a good approach for someone that didn't see before, and Jira is more complex. If you use it before, go to Jira because it's quite good, but it's quite complex for someone who didn't see it before. So yeah. Okay, so final slide, but really just things or recommended areas to look into if you want to, you know, if methodology overall interests you. Would invite everyone that isn't already to experiment with user stories if you don't have an existing model of defining requirements. You know, there's plenty of content out there to do a bit more research, more than, you know, we've done today. So we'd recommend taking a look at those. And secondly, if anyone's sat here with kind of a, you know, a looming business requirement in their head that they really know about how they're going to go about addressing it when the doors close on dreamOlé, go and engage with your stakeholders. You know, I know it's easy to kind of sit there, you know, and make assumptions and try and figure out for yourself. But really, you're not going to get all of that good information. You're not going to have confidence that you're going to be successful if you don't engage with those stakeholders. And I guarantee that they'll appreciate it as well. Whilst they might push back initially, it's definitely worth their time in the long run. Thirdly, again, like I said, if methodology overall is something that interests you, Scrum is, well, it was life-changing, enlightening to me. But no, it's you know, there's a lot more content to Scrum than what we looked at today. Essentially, we picked out a few concepts which I think are really kind of useful to anyone, you know, irrespective of whether you're internal admin, consultant, you know, any walk of life. But as I say, there's lots more content. So if it's something that, you know, you feel you have a need for, a good delivery methodology, I'd say Scrum is a very good place to start. Okay. So there we go. Next slide. Yeah. So thank you all very much for listening, and we welcome your questions. Yeah. Second round of applause for Pablo for speaking in English to facilitate me.
Yeah, so any question? I mean, we accept a question in Spanish and English. So,
I use Jira every day of my work, and I'm responsible for writing user stories.
Yeah.
And I just would like your feedback on how detailed should it be with your experience. I'm going to give you one example. It's like like, say, okay, as a sales user, I want this report to be an opportunity pipeline. But the part that I'm interested in is like the first one, like as a sales user, right? Should we detail like as a user with this profile?
No, I mean, yeah, that's quite a common question. My personal view is no, because you'll run into points where you're just like, oh, I need 2 user stories versus like 2 profiles of user. Like, I really think of it as just like, you know, how you would generally categorize in the real world. So you might have telesales,
business language.
Yeah, like business language, like familiar language. I wouldn't, you know, semantics around profile names and stuff. You'll just send, you know, run into walls.
Okay.
Is my opinion.
And you use Jira, I suppose.
We don't use Jira. No, we actually have a lovely custom.
Yeah. There's some other details and tasks and
Yeah.
We are really cool for Jira.
Yeah, I'd love to use Jira.
My second question, if you could just comment briefly your opinion, in terms of waterfall methodology versus Scrum.
Yeah. So I mean, I think depending on whether you're, you know, consultant or, you know, internal, I think there's still kind of a fit for both. And I think when you see on big consulting projects, it's a bit more challenging, and it requires a bit more of a kind of mental shift at the top level in, you know, big companies. But I think you can definitely incorporate some elements like, you know, user stories, trying to introduce the whole like sprint cycle as opposed to just like one long build cycle. But yeah, I mean, Scrum or any other kind of incremental methodology is just like acknowledging that, you know, what we do is complicated. We're forever trying to build stuff to changing business needs on changing technology, which is, you know, difficult. So I'd say that's a good message to pick out some of the concepts, but equally it's not realistic that you can make an immediate transition from waterfall to more agile if you're working in that big kind of consulting
We're
environment.
doing exactly what you're saying.
Bane of my life, put it that way.
Yeah, but I heard some critics say that actually if you're not going for full agile, full Scrum, it's actually don't do it.
Well,
You can just adopt some best practices and
So I mean,
you really need the change in the...
So I mean, and the way I kind of broke out those final bullet points and the few concepts that we looked at today, I do find it quite useful to actually identify what the kind of distinct concepts are, you know, within Scrum, within an agile methodology, and choose the ones that are right for you. And I disagree that some you know, can be valuable if you're not working in a full agile methodology, but I would agree that there are others which do require it.
Thank you.
I have one question, because this is something that happened to me in the past. Which will be the best way of managing when doing the scope changes when you are in progress doing one task?
Yeah.
And then the scope changes and your boss tells you, no, I also need these 2 or 3 new requirements.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is it's a difficult one. It does require, it's like a communication thing, and this is where I think it's good to like have shared visibility and a shared understanding of the distinction between like icebox and backlog. And it's like, you know, really drive home the message that once we walk out of this refinement session today, like, you are committing to that this is what we're going to deliver, you know, and when it's in progress, you know, this is what we deliver in 2 weeks. And again, that's the benefit of working in increments and kind of like embedding that mentality that, you know, it's maybe not going to be perfect first time around, but guess what? We're going to do the same thing in 2 weeks' time and we'll, you know, continuously get better. Like, we're never done. So.
Yeah, also depends on the requirements, because if the requirements are quite big, you need maybe to create a new project and deal with your stakeholder to start a new one.
Yeah.
If it's small, you can do in the same deadline maybe. That depends.
These are the requirements you gave me, and you can we make sure that we are all agreeing on these and apply how is dealing them with the differences.
Yeah, I guess that's like classic debate between do we favour more like achieving the original goal or adapting to change. So I mean, I think like you typically incorporate, facilitate that conversation up front. It's like, again, I think it's more difficult in a consulting environment, but I think you're within an end user. So I think, you know, kind of setting those parameters up front, having that conversation, maybe Any other questions?
No?
No?
Great.
Cool.
So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
See you later.